So David, in your experience, what are the most important responsibilities of a fund manager?
Okay, well, the fund manager is obviously involved in the investment process, and the key thing about a fund manager is the element of support that the fund manager requires, because the fund manager can only be as good as the structure in which they're operating. It doesn't matter how clever the investment manager is, fund manager is. The most important responsibility they have is to not only make the investments, but ensure that the support process for those investments is suitable for the fund, is providing the correct, complete records of the fund. And so the relationship between the fund manager and the fund administrator becomes an extremely important one. And on the other hand, the fund manager, the investment manager, has got to access markets. And so another relationship that's going to be extremely important is the prime broker. The investment manager is particularly going to be involved in appointing the prime broker, selecting the prime broker. So that's a major responsibility. But overall, the fund manager's responsibility is, of course, to the investors in the fund to deliver the return.
What would you say the inherent dangers of the fund management sector, of the fund sector, are for the members of this market?
Well, there's always going to be potential risks in that sector. I suppose for Cyprus, the particular risks are that Cyprus as a fund centre is really in a kind of evolving stage. And so there are risks associated with setting up the infrastructure, with having suitable custodians, suitable administrators, and so on and so forth. There are risks inherent in operating funds, and Cyprus will not be any different from any other jurisdiction in terms of those risks. But if the administrators, if the custodians, if the fund promoters are knowledgeable, understand those risks, identify those risks, then there's no reason why those risks can't be managed successfully.
So have you identified any future challenges of this field?
I think it's pretty easy to see some of the challenges. Certainly skill sets, knowledge, awareness, these are all major requirements for Cyprus as a market. And we've also got the situation to consider in terms of things like technology, systems that are available, and really it broadens out across a much wider sector as well. So we're talking about things like, are there adequate legal firms here to support this business, to give advice to fund promoters and such like? Are there sufficient banking facilities here that are acceptable to promoters of funds who set up those funds? So there's plenty of challenges, no question of that. So it won't necessarily be an easy ride for this jurisdiction, but having said that, the advantage that Cyprus perhaps has is they are almost starting with a blank sheet of paper, and as a result they can learn from what other jurisdictions have done, and they can look at the mistakes that other jurisdictions have made, and they can potentially benefit from that. But what will be necessary is that the authorities have got to support this 100%. They must give the necessary amendments to regulation, they must give the necessary marketing support globally, they must create the environments and the framework within which these administrators and custodians, which are essential to attract funds here into a fund centre, for them to be able to operate as viable businesses. So it's a Cyprus thing rather than one individual type of organisation. One administrator is not going to make a fund centre for Cyprus. It's going to need everybody.